I'll tell you a little secret, all right? I'll tell you a very little secret that I might get in trouble if I told you this, but you know what? I'll tell you guys. Damn, damn, damn! We got some extremely bullish rumors coming out of China, and this will absolutely change the game. It will at least double, if better, quadruple sales here in China. Let me explain. So for the longest time ever, Shanghai has been the primary delivery driver for NIO. They sell the most cars in Shanghai. And Beijing over here, even though Beijing is the capital, has only been selling second place or fifth place, but never first place. And the reason is very simple. And if you watch my interview with NIO's general manager here in Beijing, it's all because of the permission to get a license plate. For example, I can have all the money in the world, but if I only have one permission to get a license plate, then I can only buy one car. It doesn't matter how much money I have. So what you have is a situation where a lot of people, they want to buy NIO, they have the money, but they can't. They're not allowed to. The government set in that rule back in 2012 to ease traffic jams. Of course, that's a very dumb way of doing things. Banning car sales, reducing car sales to ease traffic jam, come on. And the NIO manager told me that in his 6-year tenure working at NIO, if he was in Shanghai as a sales rep in Shanghai, because Shanghai doesn't have those restrictions. You just got to pay social insurance for 1 year, and then you can get a license plate for free. Here in Beijing, you have to pay social insurance for 5 years, and then you have to be also a Beijing resident, and then you get permission to roll for a license plate. It's like rolling a dice, but the percentage chance is 6% chance. So you can imagine how difficult it is to get a permission to get a license plate. And he told me if he was working in Shanghai, he would have at least earned 2 extra ES8 worth of bonuses, because every time if Beijing sells 5 cars, Shanghai is going to sell 10 cars. If Beijing sells 15 cars, Shanghai is going to sell 40 cars. It's just the market here in Beijing is constricted. There's lots of rich people, but they can't buy the cars. Now, there are several exceptions, people that have a ton of permissions and are also really rich, like the NIO owner of 23 NIOs. I have no idea how he got 24 vehicle purchase permissions, but he somehow has it. It's probably also his company or also his relatives giving him that permission, but who knows? But the massive rumor right now is that Beijing is considering to remove all restrictions on new energy vehicle purchases for license plate permission, all right, and make it even more difficult to obtain a gasoline plate. So basically, if you have money and you want to buy a car with a green plate, whether it's NIO or Tesla or any EV, as long as you got the money, you can buy it and you can get a license plate. That is apparently in progress. And this is a massive game changer because there's so many rich people here in Beijing that want to buy a ton of cars, but they can't. They don't have the permission. And what's beautiful about this is that it's only for NEV cars, new energy vehicle cars. So cars like NIO, cars like BYD, cars like Tesla. So if this goes through, the sales reps here in Beijing are going to have a heyday, and they're just going to sell a ton of vehicles. And NIO and Beijing is going to 100% take the #1 spot in terms of sales for NIO. And we could easily see the numbers here in Beijing quadruple in terms of deliveries. This would be like opening the floodgates. The constriction would be gone. Everybody is going to be buying EVs and NEVs. And that will actually be the best bullish news for every non-gasoline automaker here in China. Forget 30,000 deliveries. NIO can easily go for 40,000 deliveries if this happens. It'll be the biggest thing that has ever happened to NIO. So, some more details on this rumor. Apparently, this policy has officially been filed in the process of approval and discussion within the upper officials, and the fastest time it could come through for consumers is about 1 to 2 years. So yes, it's not going to happen immediately, but this does mean that 1 to 2 years later, the floodgate is going to be open instantly. It's like a dam that's been there, that's all of a sudden going to be taken away. You can imagine the inflow of orders that you're going to get, and there's already a lot of people checking out the cars in preparation for this happening, which is a little bit early, but the rumor does say the fastest is 1 year. So that would be pretty big if anybody can buy a NIO as long as you got the money. You don't have to worry about license plate permission. I'll tell you a little secret, all right? I'll tell you a very little secret that I might get in trouble if I told you this, but you know what? I'll tell you guys. So here in Beijing, all the test drive vehicles are actually owned by NIO employees. They're not owned by NIO. Outside of Beijing, all the test drive vehicles and every single car in the showroom is owned by NIO. Here in Beijing, the license plate permission is so tough, so hard, that employees got to buy the car as an investment, basically. And their cars essentially work for the company and be the test drive cars. And it's pretty much like this for a lot of companies here in China because you can't get the license plate permission. It's just that difficult. So even here in Beijing, a lot of times if I want to borrow a test drive vehicle, the general manager is like, yeah, sure, go ahead. But then I got to talk to the owner of the car, the actual owner of that test drive vehicle, which is not NIO. It's a NIO employee. When I test drove the ES8, that car belonged to another manager at the NIO service center. It was his car. That pretty much tells you how constricting it is to buy vehicles here in Beijing. And despite all that, NIO still achieved second place in terms of city ranking in sales for Beijing. So that is a fantastic achievement. Don't get me wrong, it's not like NIO doesn't want to put their own vehicles out there for test drive. It's that they can't get the license plate for it in Beijing. It's just that hard. And you're wondering, why would the employees do that kind of stuff? Because most of these cars are actually owned by employees that are not at the bottom. So they got like management positions, management roles. So for them, it's like contributing and helping the company. All right. And it's only in Beijing. All right. It's in the other cities. None of this is going on. And this isn't bad by any means. All right. It's just the way things are. But of course, if this policy gets pushed through, then those NIO employees, those NIO managers, and those guys, they can all keep their own cars and drive them themselves. And then the company can get their own license plate for test drive vehicles here in Beijing. And if that's the case, of course, you'll have more test drive vehicles available here in Beijing as well, because what you're seeing right now is because NIO has so many vehicle models, 8 right now, it's very hard to get 8 license plate permissions from all your management employees for each store, for each vehicle model. So it's just, you're going to have situations where some of the cars aren't there. For example, sometimes the EC7 is not there, or some stores don't have the ES7 or the ET7, or some stores might only have, for example, at our service center near Hoshayu over here in Beijing, some of the plates are from out of province plates. So those plates can't drive within the city. They got to be like on the outskirts. Outskirts is okay. So of course, removing this restriction also really benefits all the EV companies. NIO can have 8 full vehicle models in their parking lots at each and every store, and whatever vehicle model they want to test drive, they can test drive that vehicle. I really hope that this does happen, because if this does happen, then there won't just be one NIO owner with 23 NIOs. There will be multiple NIO owners with 20 plus NIOs. There's a lot of ballers here, but not a lot of license plate permissions. And right now, as it stands, you got to sell a car to buy a car. And some people, they don't want to sell their car. They just want to buy a new car, add to the existing cars. Fingers crossed. Hope this policy gets pushed through. That will be absolutely massive. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.